Live on Indian Weekender Facebook and YouTube channel.
Kia ora everyone and welcome to Weekender at 5. My name is Preeti Garude.
And I am Gaurav Juneja. And today we are bringing you an extended version of Weekender at 5. But let's look at the first, sorry Preeti, but let's look at the main headlines for the day.
There are 129 new cases of COVID-19 in the community. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced a 90% vaccination target and a traffic light system under a new COVID-19 protection framework. New Zealand will move to a new traffic light system to manage COVID-19 when district health boards have 90% of its eligible population vaccinated. The government will decide on when Auckland will move into this new traffic light framework on November 29. The government is also set to follow a goal to minimize and protect.
The traffic light system will replace the current 4-level alert system. At orange, everything remains open, but because of the vaccine certificates, limits to gathering or hospitality venues can lift. Green is when there are some COVID in the community, but at low levels, and red is when restrictions remain as it is.
When COVID-19 protection framework will bring back freedom. Fully vaccinated people can enjoy all events and hospitality as well as gatherings by showing a vaccine certificate. Where premises choose not to use vaccine certificates, they will face restrictions on numbers and spacings similar to the current alert level framework.
Vaccine certificates will become necessary to enter venue once legislation is passed. The Prime Minister reiterated that unvaccinated people will be denied privileges that will be available to vaccinated Kiwis. She hoped that in this announcement would encourage many of us to get vaccinated. Places and venues that choose not to use vaccine certificates will either be closed or will have public health measures in place.
Aucklanders will absolutely be able to share Christmas with families, Jacinda Ardern said. Replying to a question during her media conference, Prime Minister said that Aucklanders could be certain that they could meet up with their friends and relatives around the country by Christmas.
Also, New Zealand has become the first country in the world to pass a law that will ensure financial organizations disclose and ultimately act on climate-related risk and opportunities. Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister Dr. David Clark and Climate Change Minister James Shaw announced yesterday.
And now to the main discussion for today. More about the Resurgence Support Payment Package, as well as the 60 million business advice and mental health support package. But before we get into the details of this, let's understand what this package is and what are the changes on it after today's announcement.
Businesses that experience a 30% drop in revenue over a 7-day period at increased alert levels are currently being given a base payment of $1,500 to cover expenses, and for each full-time employee, they will be paid $400 additional.
Now, from November 12th, payments will be fortnightly as opposed to being 3 weeks. The base payment will be $3,000 as compared to the $1,500 that was there earlier. Each full-time employee will receive $800 as opposed to $400 that was earlier. And then this will make the maximum fortnightly payment of $43,000.
So what is the 60 million business advice and mental health support package will look like? The government has agreed on package to help Auckland businesses through this transition period, providing businesses advice and mental health support. A $60 million package will be provided to SMEs, and the government will provide additional $3,000 for advice and planning support. And for implementation of that advice and planning support, through established regional business partners program will be providing additional $4,000.
$10 million is available for mental health and well-being support. There is a program that will be designed with the Employers Manufacturers Association and Auckland Business Chamber of Commerce. An in-principle transition payment will be made available to support businesses when they move into the new traffic light framework.
In today's Weekender at 5, we are talking to our community and our businesses about how these new announcements has affected their businesses and life. What we want to understand from these businesses is whether there is any relevance of these announcements to their businesses, to their industry, and more importantly, does this help their bottom line?
We are also, sorry about the delay, but we are also going to investigate all the unanswered questions from today's announcement by the Prime Minister. We want to know from the people on the ground, does today's announcement provide them with any clarity?
Preeti, while we are waiting for our guest to join, let's look at the questions that we'll be asking to the from our panelists, and we are also inviting everyone who is watching this show to write in their questions about today's announcement in the comment box, and we'll be able to bring that up, and we'll ask that on live.
Yeah.
A couple of questions that we have from today's announcement is, as a business person, are they clear about the traffic light system? Because there's still a confusion between the traffic light system. What will be the rules under the red light? What will be the rules under orange? And what will be the rules under green light? How will we manage that? Where will the authorities, the government, the police will come in to act upon the one who will not be following the traffic light system?
Yeah, and that's something that we've been discussing since 10 o'clock this morning, is that this traffic light system, as you can see on the screen right now, the traffic with the traffic light system, with the red, everyone's been encouraged to work from home. Hospitality, retail, and gatherings allowed they can allow with the vaccination certificate, can only allow the vaccinated, but kind of similar to what the level 2 rules were that we were following. For the venues that do not use vaccination certificates, contactless pickup only for hospitality gatherings, limits on 10 people, no gyms, and no to the hairdressers. Gaurav, a couple of weeks ago, we did a Facebook Live with a lot of hairdressers and beauty salon owners who have been struggling, who have had a difficult time with managing their operational expenses along with managing their employee expenses as well, like getting employees on board. So this is just something that that there is a little bit of unclarity and unanswered questions that are still existing. And while the government has put out this traffic light system that is out there, we want to understand from our businesses on the ground whether they really feel that this is something that they've been waiting for. And I believe that our first guest is in the lobby. So Gaurav, I will let you introduce him, and then we will get started with this discussion.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Preeti. Our first guest who will be with us will be Rahul Doshi. Rahul Doshi runs a childcare with the name of POTS and Rainbow Child Care Center. Rahul, are you here?
Hi, how are
Hi,
you
Rahul.
doing?
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you very much. My name is Gaurav, and she's my colleague, Preeti.
Hi, Preeti.
And
Hi.
we are just discussing about, after today's announcement, how the announcement will going to affect the businesses, their industry, and will that help you at the bottom line? So what do you think about the announcement today?
Well, in principle, it's at least a process and a way forward for us in the current scenario where we are in, which to me, I think is a good place to be. We have a sense of direction of where we are heading to. However, for us in the education sector, what we need in early childhood and special in sort of focus here for me is some clear pathways of how each level would integrate into the current alert levels. There'll be some changes to that, and what does it mean for our families who come to drop the children off? All those things. There's a lot of information that does need to come to us to effectively monitor and also deliver the same expectations.
And Rahul, so with now this 3 point level 3 that we're in, where you can have the early childhood centers that have been opened. How has that been for you? Because there was a bit of an ambiguity there, where there were some rules that were clear, some rules that were not clear. How are parents supposed to drop these children? So how has that experience been for you with this lockdown as well?
Eventually, we do get clarity. which is once again not ideal. We would like to have that clarity from day one if I'm expected to follow it down to the T from, say, Tuesday next week. Then I need that detail on at least Friday so that we can get the staff ready, get everything else ready. So experience-wise, yes, it's tough, pretty tough for parents, for staff, for children. Keep those consistencies, keep those bubbles of 10 intact all the time. How do you manage staff leave? How do you manage sick leaves? The weekly testing, the saliva testing is expensive. Children over 12-year-olds in a home-based environment have to be tested as well. So there's anxiety in a lot of ways.
I can understand the anxiety around the businesses and everyone in the environment that business is huge. And for the last couple of months, we all been experiencing the same. With the announcement today, are you happy with the support packages that have been offered by the government?
Yeah, look, any help is welcome, then nothing. So there's two ways to look at it. I can either be pessimistic or I can be optimistic. I choose to be optimistic. That's my point of view. Everything to anything helps to ease the pain. However, it's not enough as well. That's the reality too, because we're not charging any fees from parents. Yes, there is funding still guaranteed, but how long can you stretch a piece of string is the question as well. So yeah, I don't have a clear-cut answer, guys, I'm afraid.
That's all right, and that's the thing that we wanted to understand and talk to business owners about was there are, while this framework is out there, which is good, like it's a step in the right direction. The ambiguity and the unanswered questions and the slight lack of clarity to businesses makes it difficult for you to also progress with your planning till the end of the year or wherever it is that you want to work towards. With reference to the anxiety bit that we talked about, now the government has also spoken about a $10 million mental health and well-being support plan for businesses. Now that comes into place just as a reminder with what it was that there'll be an advice and planning. There'll be up to $3,000 that would be provided, and in order to implement that advice, there will be something up to $4,000 when we work with the regional businesses. How do you think that is something that would be of help to you, to your industry, and specifically to your business?
I can speak for my organization as a start point. What we did was last year at the onset of COVID, I think we worked really ahead of time as an organization. I mean, I have about 950 people who work with us and about 3,000 children or families who are with us under our umbrella. So what happens is we had all the planning in place, and that included what we call is your well-being seminars, etc., that are available resources for a pool overall. However, the current package, again, same question. How do you apply that package, contextualize it, and then make the most of it? So still, as we keep going back to that default position, how do we make use of it so that the resource is not wasted? At the same time, the money spent by the government is used properly as well.
Right. Also, along with these packages, a $10 million package has also been announced for mental health and well-being support. Do you see your business applying for this assistance?
No. I have more than enough resources internally that we have already put in place. So I would rather go with my tried and tested method that is working and not go into unfamiliar territory again.
And I think we probably have time for one last question now. Now, I just want to talk to you about the vaccine certificate. And obviously, we'll just keep it stock standard that there is a bit of unclarity and ambiguity about everything. But just in terms of businesses having to comply with the vaccine certificate, how do you think this will work with your business? I understand that's something that's new, but that's just been there have been examples overseas that we've seen. So how do you think this will work particularly with your industry?
Being so regulated, the education sector, we are pretty well covered. So I can say 98% of my workforce is already vaccinated, which is good. And within our own internal management systems, we've already uploaded digital certificates for all my employees. So I'm pretty sweet in that place. The only ambiguity comes is outsiders, tradies who come to the place, and contractors who come to the place. So that will all have to be worked out, but that's pretty minor.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Rahul.
Pleasure, all the
I
best.
really appreciate you joining us and sharing your thoughts with us, because I feel like as someone who's a leader within the industry and have had to go through the previous lockdown as well as the new challenges that we faced through this one, it has been a kind of a trial and error method for a few businesses. Would you agree with that? Maybe I'll just ask one or two more questions to you. Actually,
Yes.
I feel like this is the part that we didn't cover.
Yes, it is. It is literally that. It is a bit of a hit and a miss. We want to get it right and hope that it comes out right as well. However, what I keep telling my teams is what you need is patience, truckloads of it all the time, and just wait rather than pushing the red button. I would just say, hang on, hang in there. Things will clear up, and you work through the process.
Yeah. And how have you been looking after? Like, how have your employees been looking after themselves? How have you been looking after your employees throughout this lockdown as well?
We've done well with that part again, because we have also what we call is the webinars that we have for our staff in place that they can access. There's always the employment assistance program as well that is offered at no charge to our employees if they feel they need something which is anonymous, and they can use that as well as in when they like. Plus, the management team's always there to have a chat. So, whole support network is important. Got to work together.
Which is great. And thank you so much again, Rahul. I'm going to let you
It's a
go.
pleasure.
Thank you so much again for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Rahul. So that was Rahul, and he has his own opinions and he has his own feedback regarding the announcement that was made by the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern today. After him, we also have another guest joining with us. His name is Jazz Singh. He's one of the restaurant owner of Parnell 149. Hi, Jazz. Can you hear us? Hi, Jazz. How are you?
Wonderful. Yourself?
Very well. Jazz, we are discussing about the discussion that we are discussing about the announcement that has been made by the government this morning. What are your thoughts about it?
Okay, it's a couple of good news from this morning government session. One, I feel, is that introducing that mandate vaccination certificates or the passports, which will surely ease further restrictions moving forward. Because me as a business owner, I've seen what's exactly happening within the business community, the restaurant, hospitality, retail community. And I understand it might not be welcoming for a certain number of people who do not want to get vaccinated. But look, that's what it is, because the government has very clearly accepted on board that there is no elimination strategy. It is next to impossible. So what is left is to urge the vaccination rates. And if that is not going, and who's suffering, who's paying the prices? Business owners like us. Business is bleeding, hurting, dying, wrapping up, going under. And I have seen a lot of examples recently. We talk with each other. So we all need to get together and make sure that we all bounce back. And if they've made it very clear, if there's no vaccination passports, you may be denied entry in the public domain, which is okay. You got to be very stonifiedly make sure that what's exactly where we're heading and how we're heading. And I feel this is one thing which should have been done weeks ago, rather introducing this today. This should have been done 4 weeks ago, where the damage should have been classifiedly controlled. Rather, business is wrapped up and there's no further hope for these poor people. And the second news, that increase in this resurgence support payment, is definitely welcoming. It'll definitely help build resilient businesses and improve the ability to proceed further under these current restrictions in place, and may help them further to come out of just such a massive hole which has been caused due to non-operations for that many weeks. Like in my case, for example, we have somehow managed to survive. There was a plan behind the scenes, a bit of understanding behind the scenes, but there are a lot of business owners which have gone under, which could not continue due to these current I would say unhostile government support plans in place.
Right.
And
Jazz, regarding with the businesses, do you as a business understand the traffic light system and how it will impact your business?
it's you do not want to make things complicated. When I say you, and I'm referring to the government officials who are making these decisions, the people are already confused enough. They need to know a very clear path. You swim in a blue ocean, my friend, or you swim in a red ocean. There's only one strategy. You swim in a blue ocean. You swim in a blue ocean, you walk, you reach your milestones, you reach your destination. If you swim in a red ocean, you swim across sharks and you don't see any directions, nothing. And this is what's happening. First, you say level 3, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You missed the port, you lost the plot. Now you're coming up system. The system is very clear: level 1, level 2, level 3. This isn't level 1, level 2, level 3. We all up we go. Rather than making people more complicated, making people more confused, it can only further lead to catastrophic situations. It will not ease the mental pressure. The people are in, there's a lot of autonomy in people, especially the business community, who have struggled, who are struggling, who will continue to struggle. This is not just a recovery plan is not 6 months ahead. It's years and years ahead.
Right. So every time government brings in a plan, they lose sight of something which is happening, which it is 6 months apart, and they focus on something which is immediate threat, like the level 3 phases didn't work out, so they actually brought up a traffic light system. I understand it has been a really confusing thing for a lot of people, and a lot of businesses are suffering from it. But they have also announced a package for helping out those businesses. Are you happy about those packages that have been offered by the government?
Look, as I mentioned earlier, it's definitely will ease out certain restrictions. It will help build resilient businesses and improve their ability to operate under these kind of restrictions in place. But if you say this will continue, if this needs to be continued, then injection needs to be continued at regular intervals and stuff. But if you say one-off thingy and okay, we're back in level 2 and there's no further support, the recovery path is miles ahead.
Right.
The businesses do need a continued plan in place where they can rely. The lockdown, I can understand it, but we're happy to assist with the lockdown restrictions, but not a good example in my case. The business has been shut stop for the last 10 weeks, zero cash flow, 10 to 12 full-time staff, retain them, look after them. Yes, there was a plan, there was a sustainability plan, but for how long can you continue the sustainability plan? How long can you keep digging into your buffer? How long can you have your plan B's going on? And the concerning point is, and this can only lead to further catastrophic situation. The answer back to your question is that will the government yes, they must look into serious consideration. This is not a temporary phase. They should take into a good quarter or an ongoing process where the businesses, what they've lost in the past, at least they can recover a chunk of the losses.
Now, Jez, as someone who's within the hospitality industry, this is something that I want to have a chat with you about, was the vaccination certificates, right? Now, we all knew that this was something that was going to happen. It was on the pathway. We were all expecting that, this is something that would be introduced. So have you, as
I'm sorry, Preeti, I missed the whole part.
Oh, okay.
Come again.
Am I clear now? Am I able to speak properly? Are you able to hear me? Yeah.
Better.
All right. Perfect. I think there's some issue with my
Yes.
network, it seems. So this is something like, as someone who's within the hospitality industry, we knew that there was vaccination certificates was going to happen down the pipeline. We knew that this was going to be introduced sooner or later. Have you given a thought as to, based on obviously we have the red orange and the green, and who's allowed to enter, who's not allowed to enter. But have you given any further thought as to how that is actually going to be implemented? Because the onus at the end of the day, it would remain on you to implement, and how you will carry it out strategically. Have you given it any bit of a further thought?
Look, I have been in a favor. I am not being in a favor. See, it may become a bit contradictory, but if it comes from the owner's point of view, it may further backfire. Not only me, from the retail owners, from the retail sector, the hospitality sector, tourism sector, because the competition, the market competitive analyses are huge. If you come into my restaurant and I'll say I decline, I'll say I don't want to serve you because you don't have any further vaccinated passport, you will say, okay, no problems, I may go somewhere else. But this may not work for me. But if it comes from the government advisories, from the governing councils, and this is the mandate, you do it or you don't do it. If you do it, wonderful, you'll be entertained in the public domain. If you don't do it, unfortunately, you'll be declined entering the public domain, be it a cafe, be it a bar, be it a restaurant, be it a supermarket, be XYZ, be you name it, anything. But if you put it on individuals, it may not help. And this should have been introduced weeks ago, I feel. The things would have been little different. The day they accepted the elimination strategy is not possible, it is impossible. That should have been the point where it should have been introduced in certain stonified manners, rather delayed it for another 3 weeks, and it can only lead to further claustrophobia situations. It cannot make things easier. And so the answer to your question is that, coming from me, putting restrictions to the patrons, I will never do so. But if I'm abide by the government advisories, I have to do so. But I do not see there is any wrongdoing in this, because there is no other way out for us to come out of this.
Right. Jazz, we might have last question. Time for one last question. Government has also announced that there will be $10 million of mental health and well-being support. I know that Auckland has been into series of lockdowns in and out, and it's really difficult to retain your employees, look after them. Will there be any? Do you see that your business applying for this assistance?
Look, at this stage, the team has been looked after to the highest level, and I proudly say this. It's not been required. I would make sure it has been untouched upon, and I do not need any fragile support which do not add any value. But I definitely, as a business owner, would highly recommend that the government should come up with better, more targeted support structure in place, rather just giving this one-off things. There should be a planned structure in place. But the answer to your question is no. At this stage, my teams are fully looked after. They do not require any mental counseling as such. Hopefully, we'll take care as long as we look after ourselves. So, but if needed, hopefully it's not required. But if needed, there's always, we can rely on certain dimensified figures in place.
Well, that's very good to hear from an employee perspective, that their employer is looking after them and their mental health being as well. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jazz.
That
was Jazz. Yeah, so now that was Jazz Singh, and it was really, Gaurav, I think it was a really good discussion. We've had one person from an early education childhood industry, and then the other one is the most affected industry that we've been talking about is hospitality. Now we've got another person who's coming in. We've got Pankaj Gupta, who will be joining us. He has multiple businesses. He owns multiple businesses. He owns a bar and a bowling club. Now, Mr. Gupta, welcome to Indian Weekender at 5.
Mr. Gupta will not be able to join this soon. Apologies for that. We have Ajay Bal, who is owner of the multiple businesses and currently owns a sweet shop and is also an immigration advisor. Ajay, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Preeti. Thanks for having me on this live session, and good afternoon to all the Indian Weekend viewers.
Good afternoon to you, Ajay, as well. Ajay, we are discussing about the announcement that has been made by the Prime Minister this morning and how it has impacted different businesses, different industries, and how will businesses are able to see their future in their business for a long time. Uh, Auckland has been running into the 13th week of a straight lockdown, and it has been very difficult for a lot of employers to retain their employees, and that's why the government has introduced multiple packages about it. We'll discuss that in discussion. What do you think about the announcement that has been made by the government this morning?
I think the clarity which we were expecting from this announcement, which was made this morning, it was missing. It still is missing, and I don't know why would we have to wait for a concrete decision and concrete announcement. Again and again, we've been given announcements about announcements. So I think we were due for a concrete answer today that this is a date, regardless what percentage of COVID vaccinations we hit as a nation, either 80% or 85% or 90%. This is the day we're going to open, and the businesses and communities should start preparing for it. So if you ask my personal opinion, I'm not very satisfied from it.
Now, Ajay, I'm going to just come in here, and sorry for the wrong introduction, by the way. I think I've got my list a little wrong here and there, so my apologies on that. Ajay, I just wanted to have a chat with you about your now you own a sweet business, and now you own a sweet shop. How has that been for you since lockdown? Because obviously during Alert Level 4, businesses weren't able to operate. But even after everything opened, like we're in Alert Level 3. But now with the festive season coming in, especially for us, it would have been quite disruptive for you.
It has been a tough journey, Preeti. Unfortunately, this Delta variant landed in the country at a very wrong time, especially for the Indian community, because at that very moment we were going through the initial stage of a festival season, because we start getting into festivals from July and August, and we go up till end of November. So the first festival, pretty much 3 days before Rakhi, which is one of our pretty well-known festival, the lockdown hits, and we were prepared because Rakhi is our second busiest festival after Diwali for the Indian sweet store. And when it was announced that it was a major hit on us, and we lost a lot of business due to that. And then we've been continuously going through lockdowns from all other festivals such as the Shara, and Karwa Chauth is actually on Sunday. I'm actually working in the shop at the moment, and it is just so hard there's still a long queue. We have good protocols in place, but it is just so hard to manage people and going through the busiest season in the lockdown.
And so did the previous resurgence payment program, or the package that was given by the government, did that help you in any way during that lockdown? And do you reckon that that's just something, if the fact that it's been increased now, that's going to help you more?
Well, the previous resurgence payments which we were getting is just a drop in the ocean. It was, to be honest, nothing. I welcome this new resurgence support payment which has been announced today and starting on the 12th of November. We welcome this. It is slightly better than the previous one, but I'm also running a petition parallel to running a business at the moment, which is Stand With Small. We talked about it on the other day in the Indian Weekend, another show. That petition was all about how much financial support we need as a business, what other financial supports and what other supports we expect from a government as a small business. And I've got a lot of interest on that. It means the problems are real and people actually want to talk about it. People actually want to hear more on it from government, but we have not been given any indication. Yes, today this resurgence payment is announced. But what we want is, as a small business, we want it to be continued for the next few months, let alone we are in lockdown or out of lockdown. All that 2 year struggle which we have gone through, this continuous support payments, or it's a subsidy, or emergency loans, or you name it, it should continue, and government should look after us in that way.
Yeah, and that's something that we've been hearing from people who've been like businesses who are within the hospitality industry, as well as the extended hospitality industry, so to say. If we look at the F&B industry as well, that's something that they have been talking about, which is that the what you mentioned just now, that it's not just up to now that we need the support, but we need the support with the recovery as well,
Yeah.
in order to be able to sustain the business. And just with keeping that in mind, the government has also announced the $10 million package, which is there, which focuses on the mental health and well-being,
Yeah.
and then you will be working with either EMA or the Auckland Chamber of Commerce. Do you reckon that is something that is of need to businesses, business like yours?
I think yes, I do agree that business owners have gone through a lot of stress in the last couple of years, and they need, they've suffered mental health problems. I personally know a couple of people who have gone through a lot of stress, and they need support. And I think these sort of fundings would come in handy for people like these. But at the same time, how they're going to be spent and how they're going to be invested, that's another thing. Because the announcement is a different thing, but the execution is that's where it's going to bring the results in. So if all these things which been announced, they're executed properly, then the results would come forward. Otherwise, it's just an announcement, and will land nowhere.
And let's also talk about the vaccine certificates. Now, the vaccine certificates have been introduced. Or will be introduced once Auckland enters the new traffic light framework. Now, is that of any relevance to you or your business? Do you reckon that you've from an employer point of view, as well as a business leader point of view, is how do you see that affecting you?
Well, I think the compliance should have not been put on employers. That's my first thought on it. We have been, given a task to comply with looking at the vaccine certificates from the clients. Now, we've been running a business from 6 years, and we build a very, very strong relationship with our clientele. And someone who I know from last 5 years walks in, and he's or she is an anti-vax and don't want to get vaccinated. Hearing it from me that you're not allowed to enter my business, it's not going to be a good look on my business. They have a freedom of choice. Yes, I'm in favor of vaccination. I encourage people to get vaccinated. But what I see is we shouldn't have been given this task to comply with vaccine certificates. If people, the government should have come another policy that, if people want to go and dine in, they should not be allowed, but not the other way around, that employers or the business owners are actually declining them an entry. That would sort of create a rift between us and as business and the client. And the client, in Indian culture, it's similar to a god. So, we cannot say no to that person.
I understand it will be really difficult to turn away your loyal customers who you've been friends with for last 5 years. There are so many policies that government will announce in the coming weeks regarding the traffic light system. Do you think that with the announcement today, do you think there has something which might have been included in the announcement but wasn't included in the announcement?
Yes, the most important part, which I was expecting, was to give us a deadline when the border is going to be open. And there's no talk about that. There's absolutely no discussion about that. If we're going to connect to the world, if we're going to open the economy, if we're going to help the businesses, tourism to be open, businesses should have a freedom to go and travel and do trade with overseas suppliers or customers. That should have been there in the plan, or in the announcement at least, that look, 90% has been achieved by this date. If everything goes good, 1st of January or 1st of December or 15th of December will open borders. It's very simple, as simple as that. We've been waiting for it for many, many months. Countries which are, other OECD countries similar to us, they have announced they're opening borders. So why can't we? What are we waiting for? Are we going to wait for 110% of vaccination? That doesn't make sense to us.
Well, while the other countries are still opening, are already opening their borders to rest of the world, reconnecting to the world, while New Zealand is still in a process to battle COVID inside their boundaries. Well, thank you very much, Ajay, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you.
Next in line, we have Mr. Dharmesh Patel. Dharmesh Patel is the owner of a beauty salon, unique beauty salon. Very much welcome, Dharmesh. How are you doing today?
Sorry, my microphone was off. Good, very, very good. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you very much, Gaurav and Preeti, to welcoming me on Indian Weekend live stream, talking about some businesses, how we dealing with the situation at the moment. We are here now.
The topic of the conversation today is about the announcement that has been made by the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern this morning about the traffic light system, the $10 million which has been set aside for mental health, being and wellness, and the other announcement. But one crucial announcement that was missed in today's announcement was opening up the borders, or reconnecting New Zealand to the rest of the world. What are your thoughts about that one?
Now, the thing is, as far as opening our borders to the world, I may be wrong, but it's going to take very long, because our government is not very much prepared about people, citizens of New Zealand or residents of New Zealand getting vaccinated all the time. But now, looking apart, we talk about the traffic light signals, and it's very confusing. If you see our Facebook page today, I posted one funny video. No, it's like, no, we're not going anywhere. And I can see, if I'm looking at the traffic light system, it's on the screen now. It says on red, working from home, but that's also the subject to community is 90% vaccinated. And then red light will trigger, right? So working from home is nothing different than what we're doing right now, right? Moving forward, then after orange light, still it is not clear indication what we can do, what we cannot do. Yes, they gave us some indication about closed normal life for vaccinated people, but still. In our business, we cannot legally, according to whatever this declared today, we cannot legally in operation until the light is turned green.
Yeah, and that has been the biggest thing about this lockdown, right? Like, you have your business or your industry has actually been one of the most affected ones, even along with the hospitality business. Your hospitality industry, yours has been the most affected one. And have you had any sort of an impact or any sort of response from the government about how, besides this traffic light framework, whether you will be able to start business actually?
Oh, well, at this stage, Preeti, I cannot see any indication that we start our business. But, well, now this is the situation we all have to understand. That is something which is not in our control, and we have to fight with the situation. Now, as my earlier member, Mr. Ajay from some switch shop, as he said, we missed a lot of in Indian festivals, like right from Ganesh Chaturthi, we had Navratri, we had this Karwa Chauth coming in. Now, a lot of my customers are just, I'm sorry to say, but they're sending me a hilarious photo of them. We desperately need of treatment and stuff like that. So little bit funny side as well. But at this stage, I would say we must understand the situation as well. And with the government, what I'm trying to say is like they did give a research payment, which is going to increase very soon, and it. I think it is a little bit damage control from the government. They have they should have provided from the beginning, because
Dharmesh, we lost your voice again.
You've just gone on mute.
Dharmesh, I'm really sorry that we cannot hear you. Sorry, we lost Dharmesh. Well, moving on, let's call our next participant, Harpal. Harpal is an event promoter.
And that's another industry now. Now, that's another industry that we're covering, which has been, again, most affected.
And he also owns one of the Eggs and More. Hi, Harpal, how are you doing?
You're on mute again.
Harpal, you're on mute.
It seems that we're having some little bit of a technical issue there with the sound. But Gaurav, it's quite interesting, isn't it, that we've spoken to people across different industries. So we've spoken early education, hospitality, hairdressing, beauty salons. Now we'll talk to an event producer who's, again, a very affected industry in itself. So it's the recurring theme that I'm hearing from everyone is one of the things is the unanswered question, which is what about borders? Like you raised.
Common denomination is also being the traffic light system and how confusing it is. Who can go out and who cannot go out? What businesses can work during this traffic light system, and what businesses can really need to produce the vaccine certificates before they can invite their customers into their offices or into their businesses. Again, the confusion has been all across and everyone.
And that's the compliance part of it as well, right? I think that was Ajay. I think Ajay mentioned the whole compliance part as to the fact that there's the onus that has been left on the businesses that they need to make sure that their customers who come into the store are vaccinated. Now, that in itself is a longer conversation amongst businesses, and leaving an onus on a business owner for this is something that I think a lot of businesses would probably share with us that they're struggling. So let's see what Harpal has to say, if we can get him on board again, or maybe let's look at
maybe Harpal is not able to. He's still having his technical difficulties.
Yes.
Let's see if we have our next guest online. Sumita, hi.
Hi, Gagan and Preeti.
Sumita,
Sorry,
hi.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. Sumita is a franchise owner of Kes Beauty and Salon. Sumita, we are talking about the announcement that has been made by the government this morning, and how it will be, or it might impact your business and other businesses across different industries that we have just spoken about with a couple of people. What do you think about the announcement that has been made today?
Well, talking about the announcement, I mean, Gaurav, one thing I would like to add is that, yes, I do own a hair and beauty salon. And at the same time, I'm also a bookkeeper, and I work lots of hospitality businesses. So basically, I have a combined experience of both the industries. And in fact, before even putting forward my response to the announcement made by the government, I have a question for the government that on Monday, they had promised an Oakland specific support package. What happened to that package? The government keeps talking about being kind, and we are a team of 5 million. So, are we a team of 5 million, and is the kindness only coming from us? Where is the kindness coming from the government, where they had an announcement, they had made an announcement about the Auckland specific package. What happened to that package? So rather than being kind, can the government please stop lying, and I'm being very, very crude about it. But personally, I think it's not fair. How can the government eat a business which is losing 80 to 100%? Like my
Sumit, I'm really sorry, but we cannot hear
salon
you.
has lost 100% of its revenue, and it's
Sumita,
revenue.
it seems we've lost.
I think we are.
Just
Sumit is also having some
cannot get
technical difficulties.
my head
Preeti, again coming back
around
to
it.
the same question again and again. When will the borders will be open? What will be the target percentage
And
that we are or
talking
the
about
government is looking at?
hospitality business,
And when we
I've
will hit that
got
percentage? When will
clients
the
in
government will
Oakland who
want to
are
open up the
really
borders?
struggling.
There are lots of
But when
people.
you
There are a lot of
look at
work permit holders which are being stuck in India and different parts of the countries.
Yeah.
Government still
hear me
haven't
now?
answered a lot of questions that a lot of people want to ask.
Yeah. And Indian Weekender has been covering this issue for quite some time over the past few months, about families that have been separated from each other. There have been families who are there are partners who are stuck in New Zealand and their families are back in India, and vice versa. There are so many people who are on work visa and there is no clarity about how that work visa is. What does the future look like for those people, as well as the next step towards this. Like, there are a few words that I've written down from what everyone has been talking about, and the words are like, compliance. There is damage control. That this announcement is like a damage control initiative that the government has taken forward. Do you think that if Gaurav, do you reckon that when we start talking, I think it's next Monday or next Tuesday, that the government is expected to make an announcement about MIQ, and it would be interesting to see how this team of 5 million, as including the 1 million team that's all over the rest of the world, that that everyone keeps talking about, that we will get an idea of what the next steps look like. Do you, Gaurav? I think we can ask each other this. Do you think that by the end of this, will we be able to celebrate Christmas in another part of the country?
Well, that's a really difficult question to answer
It
at
is.
this moment, because the government haven't given us any clue when the borders will going to reopen. Yes, obviously, if you'll ask me, I would want to celebrate Diwali with my family or even Christmas with my family. And a lot of Kiwis, a lot of Indians, and a lot of people from different parts of the countries have also been waiting for the borders to reopen so that they can be reunited with their families, and that they haven't seen their parents, they haven't seen their brothers, sister, cousins for a very long time, and they are desperately waiting for the borders to open. These are simply the questions which the government hasn't answered.
Yeah. So while we wait, Gaurav, I'm thinking, while we wait to see who we can get online with just a bit of the technical issue that we're trying to solve, let's revise on the headlines that we had spoken at the start of the session, which was that there are 129 new cases of COVID-19 in the community. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced a 90% vaccination target, and a traffic light system, which we've been talking about with the past business owners here as well. Under a new traffic light system has been introduced under the COVID-19 protection framework. New Zealand will move to the new traffic light system to manage COVID-19 when all the district health boards have 90% of its eligible population vaccinated. The government will decide when Auckland will move into its new traffic light framework on November 29th, and the government is set to follow a goal of minimizing and protection.
This traffic light system will replace the current 4-level alert system. There will be 3 levels of this traffic light system: orange, red, and green. At orange, everything remains open, but because of vaccine certificates, limit to gatherings or hospitality venues can lift. On green signal is when some COVID is in the community but at low levels, and on the red, when restrictions will remain as it is.
So the new COVID-19 protection framework will bring back some freedom. Fully vaccinated people can enjoy all events, hospitality, and gatherings by showing a vaccine certificate. Now, this is something that we've spoken about with a few hospitality owners that we had on the show right now. Premises that do not choose to use vaccine certificate, they will face restrictions on numbers and spacing similar to the current alert level frameworks. This wherein during this conversation, there were issues that were raised about compliance and putting the onus on businesses to ensure that that people who enter their stores are vaccinated.
It will be really difficult how government will lay out their plan for traffic light system, because inviting or turning away your loyal customers from your venue if they are unvaccinated will be a really difficult thing for all the business owners to do.
Sure. And I think we probably might need to pause on the headlines, and we've just got Sumita back online. Sumita, can you hear us?
And we lost her again.
Seems like.
Let's continue with our headlines. New Zealand has become the first country in the world to pass the law that will ensure financial organizations disclose and ultimately act on climate-related risks and opportunities. Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister Dr. David Clark and Climate Change Minister James Shaw announced this news yesterday.
And Aucklanders will absolutely be able to share Christmas with families, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said in reply to a question during a press conference. We hope that this event and this conversation that we've had with the previous business owners that we had on show was of benefit to the several other small business owners within the Indian community who have been a part of of the Indian Weekender diaspora and the Kiwi Indian diaspora in New Zealand. There are several unanswered questions that are there. There are several unanswered questions that will continue to be there. When the government chooses to, when the government will introduce some clarity, we at Indian Weekender will keep you posted on it.
Thank you, everyone. We wish you have a good evening.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.